Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome to episode 6 of the TripVR Podcast. My name's VR Bug, and this is Dr. Greg. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, Greg. Coming up in this episode, we talk about Valve's research into brain-computer interfaces. Gabe Newell has been heavily involved in that recently. Also coming up in the VR news, we talk about the latest update to Population 1. They've introduced a war mode, which is a 9v9 mode, which is quite crazy. And they've also introduced a nighttime map that's on cycle, so it's random as to whether or not you get it. But that's it's quite a big update, so we'll just have a little chat about that one as well. Also, coming up, we talk about Greg's thoughts on Hitman 3 on the PlayStation VR. We also interview the legendary Dr. Beef from Twitter, aka Simon Brown, who is responsible for some of the most amazing mods from first-person shooters from the 1990s coming over and being fully playable on the Oculus Quest platform. So, something that caught my eye in the VR news over the last couple of weeks has been Gabe Newell. He was interviewed for an Australian news channel recently, and one of the comments that he was making was talking about brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. And I don't know if you saw that article. Did you see any of that at all? It was on social media a lot.
But honestly, I just read the headline. I didn't really actually read the article. Yeah.
Well, for me, I found it really, really interesting because I'm currently reading Ready Player 2. Mm-hmm. Ready Player 2, here it is. Sequel to Ready Player 1, obviously. And so in Ready Player 1, the main premise was, it was about, I think it was 5 years before commercial virtual reality was a thing. And Ernie Klein, that wrote the book, he kind of predicted what it would be like if there was this full-blown metaverse that everyone kind of lived in. So he kind of, in a way, was predicting commercial VR becoming a real thing before it happened. And what's really interesting now is there's a lot of these articles going around about BCI, and I think there's a project called the Open BCI that's ongoing that a lot of people are involved in as well. And this gets talked about heavily in the sequel, in Ready Player 2. So it just seems to me that Ernest Klein is almost like he's, he can see into the future and predict what's coming. So
it's like Matt Groening in The Simpsons.
That's it. Yeah, because he is, isn't he? Because there's loads of episodes in The Simpsons where he's kind of predicted things, isn't there?
Uh-huh.
Tons. So yeah, it sounds to me like potentially we could have commercial brain-computer interfaces on the horizon. And Gabe Newell is potentially taking the lead for this. So BCIs are associated with what they call full dive virtual reality, which is where you basically bypass your external senses, like your eyes, your taste, your hearing, all of that. And the signal of the virtual world is basically connected directly to your brain, bypassing all of that. And in fact, in this interview, Gabe Newell actually referred to eyes as like meat peripherals, which is just crazy. Like, just, it just kind of highlights his thinking, like the way he's going with this kind of stuff. And, I personally, I don't really want that future. For me, the furthest I would push it would be an extremely immersive HMD, maybe with some form of brain-computer interface, but not one that is directly connected to the brain, so invasive as such, a bit like Neuralink. And that's kind of where the Ready Player 2 book goes. So, I mean, this kind of stuff, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, Greg, whether or not, if this ever became a thing in the future, you would consider going down that path, or would you just stick with the standard HMD style?
That's really a tough question for me because, the geek in me is like, oh, bring it. I want that, But then the doctor in me is like, no, wait a minute here. This is all fine and dandy. There's like 100 billion neurons in the brain that are all intertwined and communicating with each other. That just the process of me looking at thinking I want a drink of coffee, grabbing my cup, bringing it to my the number of computations that happen for all of that shit to happen together I just don't know how feasible or how realistic this full dive thing actually is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we know a lot about the brain. We know what it does, but we don't understand really how it does it very
Yeah.
well. And so the things that you would have to do with something like that, like I would think that you would have to probably somehow freeze the motor cortex, so people would be basically paralyzed so that they couldn't, didn't accidentally like stab their wife or something like that, or jump
Yeah,
off a
like
cliff.
actually like acting out what they're
Yeah,
experiencing as such. A bit like when you're asleep. Like that
yeah, exactly.
yeah, when
It'd
you're
have to
asleep
go
you
through
don't
that
act out
type
your
of a
dreams.
process.
Yeah.
So, and then they'd have to be able to, you know, stimulate properly for everything that's happening in a game or a environment that you're in, all of the sensation through the sensory cortex. And oh my God, there's so much that goes on there. So I think personally, I think we are light years away from that. I don't
Mm.
see that happening. As far when I see brain computer interfacing, I'm thinking of, the like how they're doing like artificial limbs where people could control them with their the motor cortex and everything, and they can
Yeah.
control them with thought, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but even that, you see people going through those processes, and it's a real workout. It's a real challenge to train your brain to work this thing that isn't part of you. So I don't know, man. I think it's
Yeah.
cool,
You think it's
but
cool?
yeah, I
It's
do.
it is very cool, but for me personally, I want it to stay in the realms of fiction. I wouldn't like to see it
It's not. I don't
becoming
think
a
it's
real
going
thing.
to. I don't know how long it's going to be before we ever see anything like
We
that, but it's coming.
we
We've thought
don't
of
we
it. We're
don't
going to
know
do
though.
it.
We don't know what discoveries we're going to make because science and technology research is moving at such a pace now. There could
Hmm.
be something about the brain that we unlock in the coming years that we didn't know before, which could open a gateway to something like this,
Exactly.
like a switch in your brain that literally bypasses all of your external senses, and they hook into it, and it's a possibility they could do this. You know, yes,
Once
we
humans think of something, they tend to be able to figure out a way to do it. So
yeah, and I'm a firm believer in whatever is science fiction eventually becomes science fact if human beings want it to happen enough. It
oh
just
yeah,
seems to be the way that things
look
happen.
at Star Trek. you know, so
Yeah.
no, seriously, so many of the things in Star Trek. Now it's funny because you look back at like the Next Generation and that series of Star Treks,
Yeah.
and like they have a huge tablet for every report, and I'm like, why don't
Yeah.
they just use the cloud? I mean, I don't just use their phone. Why do I need all these tablets? So
Yeah.
many tablets.
Why they got it all stored locally on like little hard
I don't
drives and
know.
stuff? Like, yeah, save it in the cloud. Yeah, big time. Yeah,
But
there is definitely a lot of tech in Star Trek that I look at and think that would be cool to have, like phasers, the
the light speed,
teleportation, yeah, light
warp.
speed, all of that kind of stuff. But none of that's coming to fruition just yet.
Not yet. But
Not
we
yet.
have done teleportation of what, like an atom with quantum entanglement.
Oh yeah, I heard
So
about that. Yeah,
I mean, they're working on it now. The amount of power it would take to like break down a human, transfer all of that data, and reconfigure it from basically antimatter. I'm guessing. I don't even know how the hell you would actually do that, but
yeah, yeah.
that's got nothing to do with brain computer interfacing. So
At the moment, it has nothing to do with it. But who's to say that some form of quantum physics down the line couldn't unlock something like this?
yeah, well,
Because there's so many new frontiers that are being pushed right now by people like Elon Musk with Neuralink and many others out there, and Gabe Newell with his research. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see not necessarily the full dive VR in like 5-6 years as predicted by Ready Player 2, but maybe a kind of halfway house where we've got a very immersive HMD, but as you say, things like you can maybe control objects in the game by thoughts. It can kind of read perhaps where you're looking a lot better in the HMD and make better predictions, better algorithms, better AI, that kind of stuff. All of that could help to kind of create a more immersive metaverse moving forward, really. But
yeah.
In Ready Player 2, so the main characters, which is Wade Watts and Artemis. Wade Watts, who now owns the Oasis as such, he is a massive fan of the full dive, and all the characters in the book are using pretty much the full dive systems that exist then, and it's having a detrimental effect on society as a whole. Whereas Artemis doesn't go for full dive, and she just sticks with your standard HMDs and uses those instead. And then I won't spoil it too much, but basically something goes wrong and people can't log out of those full dive systems. So very much kind of Sword Art Online kind of scenario. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
With what?
Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online. Okay, yeah.
No,
I knew it. Yeah, I don't know much about that one.
Yeah, so there's it's kind of like the same sort of situation that happens in Sword Art Online also happens in Ready Player 2 as well. So those kind of nightmare situations make me think that I would be on Artemis's side. I would be like, as long as I can take the headset off freely, no problems whatsoever, that's where I'm at. I couldn't do what Wade Watts is doing, where, you know, they basically just lie in these metal kind of coffins, basically completely and utterly immersed. Their bodies needed protection on the outside while they're in the full dive VR. That's a kind of nightmare future I definitely don't want. And society is going to pot in Ready Player 2 as well because of it.
But, you know, you think about the possibilities. If you had the ability to do stuff like that, then we're starting to get into, you know, if they understand the data of the mind that much, then we're starting to get into consciousness transference, you know, where you could upload your consciousness into a cybernetic body or whatever, or, you know, into, you know, onto a database. Then you're starting to get into like the Matrix.
I know.
It's like
that's it. We're already in the Matrix, Greg. We're already in the Matrix.
Oh, that's right. I heard that.
Yeah. Haven't you twigged that by now? I twigged that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it can stay in the future as far as I'm concerned, far, far away in the future. It'll probably exist when I'm not around anymore, and I'm perfectly happy about that, I would say.
I don't know. I think the possibilities, if we could do that much, I think, oh man, one of the good Black Mirror episodes I can think of is that I don't think you saw it, but it's didn't. Like these two women are basically in an old folks home, but you know what they do is they let you jack into this system that's their afterlife system, basically, where they can go and be young and healthy people in any part of the universe that they want to, you know.
Yeah.
They're traveling through different times, like the 80s and the 90s and all this kind of stuff, and always meeting up together. And then once you die, you can just permanently be uploaded to this system and keep on existing.
Yeah.
You know, I think shit like that's really cool. And so
it is, but it raises that kind of question. I mean, we could probably talk for hours on consciousness and things like that.
Yeah.
But it does kind of raise that question as to what exactly gets uploaded. Like, just because your physical atoms, you know, could be uploaded as such, is your consciousness part of that gets transferred? And then you move into things like your soul. The consciousness isn't physical.
That's
But is your soul transferred with it if you believe in that as well?
I don't know.
Whereas exactly. Like, and this is the thing. Like, if you going back to say the quantum entanglement you're talking about with teleportation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you did teleport your full body elsewhere, you could potentially lose what is you in the process. Just because all your parts are physically aligned on an atomical level, potentially whatever is you that we don't fully understand yet might not go with it. So on the other side, you just end up being this kind of like characterless thing of you.
Maybe
people probably wouldn't notice the difference with me, but you know.
No, but with like teleportation, you are being killed every time you teleport.
Yeah.
You are being completely destroyed
and then reconstructed.
And then reconstructed somewhere else.
I know, exactly. It's like that's just crazy, absolutely crazy. But it's amazing how fast science and technology is moving right now. And I never thought, you know, sort of 20 years ago that virtual reality would be a thing in my lifetime, let alone about something like brain-computer interfaces as well. So it's fascinating to see all this research going on. I just don't know where it's going to end up right now.
Oh,
So I'll be kind of watching this. This kind
You'll
of
be an
like
old man
news.
in a nursing home yelling at people and their brain computer interfaces.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But by then, I probably wouldn't care. I'd be like 80 years old. I'd be like, jack me in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to sit here eating biscuits, drinking tea, and watching daytime TV. Just jack me into the Matrix. Big time. I thought we'd better mention it on the VR news this week. Basically, Population 1 has had another update, quite a big one. So they've introduced two key things. One is War Mode, which is a 9v9 war situation, and also a nighttime version of the map. Not a new map, it's just the same one, but it's a nighttime version where they've improved all the lighting. And it's definitely got like a nice air of ambience about it. There's even like crickets in the background and things like that.
Owls. I heard owls last night.
Yeah, I haven't heard the owls. I didn't know they did owls as well.
It was outdoors ridgeline.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the magical ridgeline that I'd never heard of until yesterday.
Yeah.
I heard you mention that on the stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've only dived into war mode like once, and I'll be honest, straight away I was like, this isn't for me. It was just so noisy. There was just so much going on, and I just couldn't keep track of who was talking to who, and who was talking to me. Also, if there was a general plan as to what we were doing, nobody seemed to have a clue. Everyone was just doing their own things. It was almost like everyone was just splitting off into their own mini squads anyway. So it seemed a bit pointless to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
I didn't actually play the war mode. I watched a couple of streamers do it, and honestly, I was like, this doesn't look fun to me at all. It's like 9 people yelling at each other, and it's just utter confusion. So I'm really not interested. I mean, I think it would be different if you could have 9 friends, instead of just your regular squad, and then they pair you up with 2 more random squads. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
or is it 3 more random squads? No, it'd be two more
random squads. Yeah.
So I don't know. It just didn't look all that fun.
No, and I don't really have the urge to play it again, to be honest. I think I tried it. I was like, no, done, out. And, it just begs this question as to where is solos in Pop 1?
Right.
Where is it? Why are they doing this? Why are they wasting their time on modes like this that nobody's asked for and nobody really, really wants, but they've come up with these modes? Why don't they just go for solo? It's got to be the most requested thing in Pop 1 now, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I don't know. That sounds terrifying to me, but yeah, I would definitely try solo.
Yeah.
You know how every time I get into a lobby and I see like a rainbow Anna or like that super high level Millie or and I'm like, oh shit. It's like, should we just go back out and come back in and do another game?
I know, but it'd be interesting to see like how we all cope as solo players. So one of the big things with the squads is, especially when you get randoms, is you kind of don't always have a proper tactic. But when you're by yourself, you know how you play and you know how you want to approach that particular game, and so you don't have to answer to anyone, so you can pretty much crack on with your own strategy. Whereas with the squad, you have to think about everyone else the whole time and try and work together as a team, and it doesn't always gel, which is why you end up losing a lot of matches. Well, I lose a lot of matches anyway, regardless of strategy. I just lose a lot of matches.
Depends on the night for us, Some nights we do really good. Some nights we just get our asses handed to us all night,
Yeah, I know. There is a lot of good players out there. There really is.
Yeah, there are.
But it'd be great to have like a solos leaderboard, that you could just you and your mates, and you can just see how you compare. Wouldn't you love to know, like, how good you really are compared to all your mates that you've got on Oculus or Steam? I think it'd be great.
Oh yeah, Hellquake and I are always comparing our stats and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's usually above me by a little bit, but like we watching our games, like our kills are doing this the whole time. I'll be up here, then he'll be up here. It's just this the whole night.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we're sitting right now. We go by my brother's win rate because he only plays with us. So, like our win rates are based on when we first started playing, which was forever ago, and we were losing a lot. So those numbers are really hard to bring up. but my brother's win rate is right around, it's like 31 to 34%. It fluctuates in there. So that's where we figure we must actually be now at this
Yeah.
point, because he only plays with us. So
Yeah.
so
So
I'm pretty happy with that.
yeah, it's good to have like a bar that you can kind of compare yourself to and see how you're getting on. Yeah, definitely. That's
But
cool.
as far as like the new updates go, first of all, the map looks great. I love all the new lighting.
Do you like the night map? Yeah.
I love the lights in the building.
Yeah.
I love, like, have you been to the church? Inside the church?
Yeah, it's all lit up in there now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they got candles everywhere. Like that
Yeah.
big sarcophagus up front is open and there's like steam coming out of it and everything, you know? And of course, I don't know if that's supposed to be the vampire, because I love the vampire avatar. I'm the guy that said I would never buy avatars.
Did you buy it?
I saw the vampire. I was like, gotta have it. And I love that. I love that AK with the
with the bat on
head.
the end. Yeah, yeah. I did the same as well. I bought it, and as I bought it, I was saying to myself, like, how much money have I spent in this game? Right?
I know, right?
I think, how much was Pop One originally? 25.
Yeah, it was $30.
$30,
I think
right?
I spent $30 for
Okay,
it,
so
yeah.
$30 on that, right? And I've probably had, I probably bought 2 or 3 sets of skins since it launched, and each one of those must be about
Like
$7.
$10.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. So that's a hell of a lot of money that
Yeah,
one individual
I got
has
the
spent
winner.
on that game.
Yeah, I got the winter one because I like that zero.
Still the best skin.
Yeah, still love that skin. And the character models look a lot better with the new lighting and everything too. Everything just looks better in the game.
It does. It does.
Yeah, but that's the only ones I bought. I bought that one and then the vampire one. I thought about the peace one. You know, the War and Peace guys, because I really like that purple one, but I didn't get that one.
I spent on that as well, but I said to myself, now that I've bought the vampire set, that's it. I'm not spending any more in pot 1.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes. Oh,
yeah. I love your fingernails. You know, the sharp, pointy fingernails when you're like climbing walls and stuff.
And that's why it's really, really good, because it is something different, that particular skin, isn't it? It's very different.
Have you noticed you have like bite marks on your neck?
No, really?
Yeah. There's like 2 bloody bite marks on your neck.
No way. That's so cool. They've got some great artists working at Big Box.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and it must be great. Like, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in there while they're brainstorming ideas of what they want to do with the game and the skins they want next and things. I'd love to hear those conversations. I bet.
I'd like to see a new map, like even like a different world or something. You know, just something just crazy. Because I am happy though that they removed the ice and snow from plains, but they left all the rock formations and everything. So you still have all that fun cover and everything to run around.
Is it exactly the same as the ice layout?
It's pretty close.
It's pretty close. Okay.
Yeah. You just don't have the big ice jagged points off of things now that you could run up on. But at least all of the big rock type structures that were in plains are still there. So you don't feel like you're running out into the middle of this big wide open place to get sniped.
Yeah, I know. That's always the problem with plains, isn't it? Like, you just get sniped there so easily. Yeah, so I think it's great that they're still updating this frequently, and the night map is definitely welcome, and the lighting effects is definitely welcome as well. So this game just goes from strength to strength to strength, doesn't it?
Yes,
it really does.
Just war mode, kind of a meh. I guess I haven't played it, but I've watched enough to know that I probably wouldn't like it.
That's probably it's probably the first mistake they've made, I would say, because I think the general consensus across the board is it's a bit meh. And that might be why they put it in for a limited time anyway, because they knew there was a chance that maybe people wouldn't take to it.
Yeah, I can't remember how long it's lasting, but it's
only
just
like
a couple
10 days
weeks
or something.
It?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So we'll keep our eye out on more Pop 1 updates in the future, and we'll obviously have a little chat on the podcast about them if any of those we find interesting moving forward. Definitely. Right then, I would like to introduce my guest today, and this is the amazing Dr. Beef. So, for those who don't know, Dr. Beef is well known in the VR community for bringing ports of amazing old school first-person shooter games onto the Oculus Quest for our enjoyment. Games like Doom, Quake, Half-Life even, and more recently Doom 3, which has been a massive hit as well. So this is Dr. Beep. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Hello, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. The pleasure is absolutely all mine. I absolutely love all of the ports that you're doing right now. It's just so much fun experiencing those old school games again. I love it. So let's just start with a bit of background, really. So or have you always been a gamer? Like, what are your sort of earliest memories of gaming from back in the day?
Yeah, well, I think pretty much going back to when my parents got me my first Commodore 64 back whenever that was. And the excitement was just incredible at that point, and couldn't wait to rip it out of its packaging and get playing. And I've kind of always been a gamer, but there's always been something about working and being with computers that gaming has sort of always been fun for me, but it's kind of been as interesting as actually being a developer.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of, I've enjoyed the gaming, but I've also wanted to create things and do things with computers at the same time. So the two things have sort of gone together throughout my life, really. So for a long time I was, playing games and learning to code and that sort of thing, and then I went to university and did the appropriate stuff there. And then, after university, I kind of I wasn't so much into gaming at that stage for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And it was only then I started to, after, 10 years or so, I got like a PlayStation 3 and started getting back into gaming again. And, so I wasn't a huge PC gamer, which has been quite interesting because given the ports that I've been sort of working on, me and the team have been working on. So when in my teens, I was playing like Doom and Quake, and then I kind of left those behind for a while. And then it's been quite nice to come back to them in my later life and, just get a bit of gaming done. I think for me, I've always enjoyed gaming, but I never felt like it was quite complete enough until VR happened. And then that's really kind of turned things around for me. So, I'm much more of a VR gamer than I ever have been any other kind of gaming, really, I'd say.
Would you say, so it's completely dominated your gaming life now then, virtual reality? It's kind of your go-to thing now, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I don't really play games in any other format. I tend to just play VR. If it's pancake games, don't really interest me as much. I'll play a bit of Fortnite with my kids and that sort of thing, but yeah, if I can play VR, then I'll play VR, definitely. Yeah, that's the same with me as well. I've found that over time, I still kind of know what's going on with 2D kind of flat gaming, but for me, I just find myself just in VR these days. Like it is like the next generation of gaming, and it's really nice to be experiencing this kind of new wave of gaming. And you're kind of leading it though. You really are. Like being able to experience those games that once we were sitting in front of a TV or a monitor and we were playing these games with mouse and keyboard, and all of us wanted to be in those worlds, like wanted to be a bit more immersed in those worlds, didn't we? We really did. And you used to have moments of that with like Half-Life, when you played the original Half-Life. You turn off the lights in your room, you just get stuck into it with the monitor, and it could be like 2 a.m. and you're lost in that world. But with VR, it gives you the opportunity to get even more immersed. So it feels so great that there's somebody out there that has, decided to bring these over to the Quest 2, because it's an amazing headset. And absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say was your first sort of major VR experience? Like what was the moment where you thought VR is it and this is blowing my mind?
Well, I think when I first saw the Oculus dev kit, the DK1, I missed out on the Kickstarter campaign, unfortunately, but I ordered one as soon as it was available to order. And from that point forward, I was hooked, really. And not just using it for gaming and trying every experience I could lay my hands on, but I joined a dev team fairly early on for an open source injection driver called Vireo Perception, which allowed you to play some of the old PC games in VR. So, and it was basically an injection driver. You've probably heard of Vorpex. It's very much like that.
That's right. Yeah, I know Vorpex. Yeah.
So even from the very beginnings of sort of my VR experience, I was kind of getting involved in the dev side of it where I could. You know, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm the most creative person in the ability to throw a load of assets into Unity and make something look great. But you know, with the dev kit, we were able to take this injection driver and make it work with a variety of games and get the sort of VR experience going for games that never had it before. Some of them perhaps ill-advised, like Mirror's Edge. That's not a great one to be playing in VR. We were playing Skyrim in VR before it actually had its own proper VR port. So
really?
great.
Oh, amazing.
And it went from there. So for a long time, I was sort of tinkering with the Dev Kit 1, and then the DK2 came out, and then moved on to the HTC Vive when that came along, and then basically worked my way through all the various headsets and have ended up on the Oculus Quest 2 via the Quest 1, of course.
So you found yourself starting at DK1 and you've been moving up the chain, as it was, like up the next generation of headsets to the next generation of headsets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
syndrome. I can't I can't let one go by without at least trying it.
I know this is it is kind of that way with headsets, isn't it? Like you hear about something's got a slightly better resolution or slightly better field of view. It's like you've got to get your hands on it if you can, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what's your opinion on the Quest 2 then? Like, I guess it's the first big mobile headset that's been available and that can offer these kind of experiences. So when you first tried it, did you think this is something I want to tinker with? This is something that I want to bring some of the old games to? What was it about the Quest 2 that really kind of ignited that for you?
Well, I had a Quest 1 since it was released, and by that stage we'd already done Quake, Quake 2, Quest Z Doom, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and Lambda 1 VR, of course, as well. So the Quest 2 was an opportunity to see these games running at possibly their full potential that they hadn't been able to run at on the Quest 1. And I think when we first heard that the Quest 2 was going to have the improved CPU and GPU in it, and the better screen with a greater resolution and everything like that, lighter form factor and everything, it was like, I absolutely have to get one. There was no doubt about it. And everybody was saying, well, as soon as you get the Quest 2, you're going to update these ports to work with it, won't run at 90 hertz and all the other funky stuff that the Quest 2 does. And that was basically a no-brainer, really.
A no-brainer.
And in fact, we'd already started on Doom 3 before the Quest 2 was available.
Oh, really?
So we'd actually got it running at a reasonable speed on the Quest 1. So it was an opportunity to see quite how far we could push it on the Quest 2, increase the super sampling and that sort of thing.
That's right, because you had Doom 3 mod on PCVR, didn't you, at one point? Was it the...
Yeah, that's we were nothing to do with that particular mod.
Okay.
That mod is by I can't remember the exact name of the team, but on Reddit, the developer's name is Samson, and so those guys, they created this mod in, I think it was 2017 it came out. And at the time I think it might have been a Rift, the original Rift. And so I played most of the way through Doom 3 at that point, using it. It's Fully Possessed is the name of the mod.
Fully Possessed, that's it, yeah.
And it's brilliant, superb mod. So played through that, and where am I going with this story?
That's all right. So at that point, I guess you decided, I'd love to see this on the Quest. I wonder if it's possible.
Basically. Yeah. I mean, Doom 3 is always one I've quite fancied doing. I've actually been developing these VR ports for mobile headsets since the original Gear VR.
Oh, okay. That far back.
So the first one I did was Quake. And I think that was probably one of the very few VR titles that actually had positional tracking on the Gear VR. Yeah. Because I used Google's AR Core to do a bit of rudimentary headset tracking, which was quite good. Anyway, so I worked on Quake. I'd tried to do Quake 2 before that and failed. So Quake was my only success story on the Gear VR. And then the Oculus Quest came out, and so it was obviously going to port Quake to that. And then I heard about a couple of libraries that would allow me to open the doors to a number of other ports. But I'd always quite fancied doing Doom 3 because it always looked like it would be quite cool, but I knew it would never run well enough on, a Samsung S8 with a Galaxy. It's just never going to work. And then, so we've done a whole load of other ports, but then, of course, Doom 3 was sort of the goal, really. And another developer, a friend of mine, a chap called Emil Ballinger, who has a number of Android ports of various old games, number of which have actually gone on to become the Quest ports that we've taken and adapted, you see. One of which was Doom 3, and he'd modified the renderer for Doom 3 to be sort of multi-threaded, gave it a bit of a performance boost. And that was kind of the key to the kingdom. So we could then take that port, modify it so it would work on the Oculus Quest, add the 6 degrees of freedom and everything like that. Still wasn't quite quick enough, so I had to make some additional changes to the renderer, take advantage of some of the sort of funky stuff that has been added specifically for VR, like multi-view implementations and things like that. And then that was it. It was actually able to run at an acceptable frame rate on a mobile headset. And that was kind of, a wonderful moment, seeing that properly working the first time.
It must be so satisfying, to put all that time and effort into modding a game and bringing it over to the Quest for it to just work suddenly in that, and then you start playing through it. It must just blow your mind when you finally go up and running. You must be smiling big time.
Well, there's a surprisingly long amount of time at the beginning of a project where you just don't know if it's going to work at all. You take the source code of these games and you kind of wrap it in the mobile SDK, and you then have to hope that it's going to actually show up on the screen after spending many hours sort of mashing these things together and trying to get it to even build in the first place. So that first moment when you put the headset on and you see something in front of you is just kind of like relief more than anything else. It's like, wow, I've not wasted all those hours, fortunately.
You mentioned one of your colleagues that has a lot of different Android ports for games. So does that mean there's possibly more on the horizon then? Have you got your eye on some other titles out there? Can you...
Well... Yeah,
can you give
maybe.
us a sneak peek of one that might be coming, maybe?
Honestly, not sure. Emil's like a friend. He's not part of the dev team as such, but he's been the provider of the base implementation for Castle Wolfenstein, for Quest Z Doom, for Doom 3. So in fact, and Quake 2 as well, actually. So his ports. Every now and then I have a look and think, maybe that one would work. Maybe that one might be worth a try. To be honest, at the moment, now we've finished Doom 3, I think it's probably time for a bit of a break.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, you've been working hard. Is it you and like a team of people then? So it's not just you. It's like how many other people are involved?
Well, there's 3 of us. So there's myself. There's Baggy G, who is done a variety of things in the ports. So, for example, in Lambda 1 VR, he took the weapon models and remodeled them to work properly in VR. Nice. For Quest Z Doom, he's the guy responsible for the fantastic launcher that allows you to select mods and download mods and everything like that. For Doom 3, he was actually responsible for porting across from the Fully Possessed mod a lot of the really cool features that make Doom 3 Quest really, really sing. They're like the full body IK and the interactive touch screens. They're all from Fully Possessed and were painstakingly ported across to Doom 3 Quest by Baggy G. Okay. So I've known him for years. We worked together back on the Vireo DK1 days, so we go a long way back.
Oh, that's great.
And then there's our third guy is VR Bumser, who you've probably seen on Reddit, who's kind of our PR guy. He does a lot of the promotion. He does all sorts of things. He's always there on our Discord helping people. He helps people out on Reddit. He's our main tester when we're developing new ports, and he's the guy that will find out all of the CVARs that can be tweaked and poked to get the best performance out of each of our ports. So it's the three of us.
That's good.
We're a fairly badass population 1 team as well, is it?
I think it was a tweet or something you sent once saying, so people keep on asking me how Doom 3 development is going, and it's just like a picture of you guys like playing population 1. This is what's happening. So
it's a bit of it.
What would you say your favourite then is out of everything? Would you say it's Doom 3?
I think certainly for beauty, Doom 3 wins it hands down. My slightly guilty and embarrassing admission was that I had never played Half-Life before I did Lambda 1 VR.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's a bit shocking, really. So I've always kind of picked ports based on the games that I actually want to play in VR myself.
Yeah.
And so having done Quake, I thought, what would be quite a good one to tackle next? Well, there's an Android port of the Half-Life engine called Zash 3D. Yeah. Maybe I could get that to work in VR and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'd say of all of them, that's probably the one that I've invested most time into.
Okay.
I'm pleased with the results in that one. That's come out really well.
Please tell me you've completed Half-Life now.
Oh, I have now. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Good stuff.
All in VR as well. So.
That leads on nicely. So Dr. Greg, who does a podcast with me as well, he said, can you please bring Half-Life 2 to the Quest? Is that a possibility? Is that even possible from a technological standpoint? Do you think it's something that could be done?
I have some bad news, I'm afraid. I think it's unlikely to happen. Yeah, the thing with Half-Life is the actual gold source engine that Half-Life runs on is still closed source. Yeah. However, Zash 3D is like a fan project based on the original Quake engine. And through some miracles, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to get the whole of the Half-Life campaign and various other mods and the DLC working as well.
Okay.
For Half-Life 2, the source engine, unfortunately, is not open source, much like Gold Source, and there isn't an equivalent open source version of the source engine. Unfortunately, without the actual engine code, it's not going to happen. I get asked that question all the time.
You do. I bet you do. Yeah, because everyone enjoyed Lambda 1 so much, so I'm not surprised they're asking you about whether or not you can bring Half-Life 2 as well. So do you ever... All of these ports have got to be based on, as you say, on like an open source. I'm not a modder. I'm not a developer. I knew nothing about it, so I'm trying to be able to talk to you in your language, but probably not very successfully. Yeah. I don't know what the process is of modding, right? So, is there some way you can describe it in layman terms, just bit by bit, stage by stage, just roughly what's involved? Like from you choose this game, what do you do to it? To that moment where you put it on your face in the Quest and it boots up and it works. Like just a real basic kind of rundown of what that process is.
Yeah. So the base criteria really for the ports that we work on anyway is that it has to be open source so that we can actually get the engine code to work with. Ideally, it has an Android port already. I've never tried actually taking an open source project and porting it to Android. So I've kind of relied on other people like Emil doing that in the first place for me. Yeah. And then once we've got the sort of code, it's a case of just getting it to build. And then taking the Oculus native SDK, which is like the software development kit for the Oculus Quest, and bashing these two things together until they basically stick. So essentially what you've got to do is, if you imagine like a pancake game, you've just got a single view from the viewpoint of the player. What you actually need to have is two views, one for each eye. And there's a variety of ways of accomplishing this. For most of the ports, the way it's been done is it'll actually draw the whole scene twice. But from a slightly different perspective. And that will then give you your sort of stereo view. And then, of course, the field of view has to be correct so that it looks right when you're moving your head. and it has to be quick enough that it can actually render this twice for every frame that it's going to be projecting to your head. So, and that's just the fundamentals of even seeing it on the headset in the first place.
Yeah.
Then you've got the whole issue with moving your controllers around and making the gun model actually move with the controller, which usually quite a faff, to be honest. Many hours. Is because a lot of these games as well, they were designed in such a way that the actual gun model is not at location 000 in the sort of world or in the model kind of structure. So ideally, your gun model would be located exactly where your hand is. But the first time you fire the game up, your gun model is actually located some distance away from your hands. You then move it to where the hand is, and it's never aligned right because they always make them look good rather than actual. They're not functional gun models in an old game. So there's a lot of that sort of faffing around, and it's a surprising amount of work to go from the source code to an actual running game. Having done it 6 times now, I think I've pretty much got the whole sort of route from A to B is a lot quicker than it was the very first time I did it. But it's a fairly long and painful process.
So I mean, this is a hobby for you, I take it. It's just a hobby. But are you actually a full-time developer? That's what you do. That's your job. You are full-time right now.
So I'll work all day as a coder,
and then your hobby is doing these ports and more development. That is dedication. You must have a true passion to be able to do that amount of coding, both during the day and in the evenings in your spare time as well. That's quite a passion. Amazing. And I'm glad that you got that passion,
Yeah, my day job isn't anything related to gaming or VR or anything like that. It's completely unrelated. So when I come and sit down and start hacking away on these ports, it's a completely different field. Doesn't really feel like work in the same way. So
so almost meditative, relaxing, I guess, because it's just something that you want to. It's like a passion project coming to life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's relaxing and frustrating in equal measure, I think.
I could imagine. So, do you ever bump up against any studios or anything? Obviously, using like the older titles, or are they pretty much abandonware or what? Yeah, I don't. What's the legality of all that? Is it like a legal minefield or?
No, well, it's fine really. For a start, they're open source, so they have released this software into the world to see what people do with it.
Right. So all of the projects are open source then from point one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for a large number of the actual ports that we've done, we've got John Carmack himself to thank for actually insisting that these games' source code is made available for everyone to tinker.
That's right. He was a modder himself, wasn't he?
Yeah, indeed. So without that happening, these ports wouldn't have happened. And then generally speaking, all we've done is taken that source code and make it work in VR. We aren't actually packaging the games themselves. So in order to play these titles, you have to own them. So people have to buy them on Steam, or they might have the old CD lying around in a drawer that they've forgotten about. So we're not actually selling. For a start, we're not selling it anyway. Mm-hmm. We're just doing the source code. People have to buy the actual game themselves. So I don't know. I don't feel like we've flown under the radar as such, but we've not had any communication from any of these studios or anything. They just I assume they're aware of these projects. I mean, it would surprise me at this stage if they're not, but they just kind of let us get on with it, really. I guess they're just happy to see a few extra sales of their software that they'd kind of probably given up on.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, it'd be quite fun to see, some of these games going back into the charts and stuff because everyone's playing them on their Quest. Especially as the Quest is, it's quite a big user base now, And it's only going to continue to grow, and more people are going to be buying the original copy of Doom 3 and. So you're doing them all a favour, really, aren't you? Big time. And the process of getting it onto the headset is made so easy thanks to SideQuest. So, So do you have any communication with people at SideQuest? Are you friends with them, or? You know, how does it all work
Yeah,
with side quests from behind the scenes? Because I don't know, if you've got something you want to release on side quests, like how do you get it onto side quests? What's the process? Is that quite hard or?
Well, I've got a pretty good relationship with Shane, you know, the main side quest guy, and so like if we've got another project that's sort of coming up for launch, then I'll drop Shane a message and let him know. I mean, when we released Quake, that was one of the earliest side quest releases. I think it was like number 37 or something is the app ID. So
wow.
It's, you know, fairly early on in the process. So yeah, I think we've kind of developed a pretty good relationship with the side quest guys over time. So the whole process is reasonably seamless for us now. You know, we have a new port, we set up the app listing. I think we spend quite a lot of time doing the sort of, well, I say we, I mean, Baggy G does most of the sort of artwork and the websites for things.
Yeah, the websites always look really, really good with your ports, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite nice to have like a separate website that people can kind of land on. At some point, we'll sort out a kind of Dr. Beef landing page that will then direct people to the port of their choice. And of course, you know, SideQuest has made it easier and easier with each iteration now. It's really quite straightforward. They've introduced recently the communities thing, which has taken off surprisingly well. So there's a fairly active Dr. Beef community on there. And I mean, it's a great group of guys and have been extremely helpful. And without these ports wouldn't have the same reach that they have had.
Yeah.
You know, we're numbering probably hundreds of thousands of downloads across all the ports now. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, not small numbers at all. That's big numbers. So well done. Absolutely amazing. Well, that's great. So, look, thank you very much for your time this evening. Really, really have appreciated it. It's great to speak to you. I've enjoyed all your work so far, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future after your break, though, because you've earned your break now. So put your feet up, and relax, definitely. But thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was Dr. Beef, who I interviewed for the podcast this week, and such a nice guy. The value that he's giving the VR community is quite crazy. Just the fact that you can play all those old games now on the Quest and also PCVR as well is just, you know, just something. It would have been a dream of mine from when I was a kid to be able to jump into something like Doom in virtual reality, you know. So very cool. So what games have you played of his, of the mods that he's done?
The Lambda VR, I played a little bit with. I haven't played it on the Quest 2. I kind of want to re-download it and play it on Quest 2.
Yeah.
I played some of the Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which is brilliant. I absolutely love it. I've never played that game before, so it was hard. I got to get rid of that special AI part of the mod because it made it way too difficult for me.
Yeah. So there is
repeating. It was like Groundhog Day. I just kept repeating that first little section because I just kept dying.
I had the same problem as well with Return to Castle Wolfenstein because it does on Dr. Beef's website. It does actually say, if you want to up the difficulty of the AI in Castle Wolfenstein, you can mod it further for that. I applied the mod and then did the same as you, which was
I gotta get rid of it.
Start the game, get to the bit where there's like the crazy professor guy, die instantly, and then restart the same level again. And I think I did that for about half an hour before I realised that maybe the mod was a bit too hard for me.
Yeah, it's too hard for me.
Way too hard.
And then, of course, I've been playing Doom 3, which that mod is absolutely brilliant. The game looks better, plays better than it did on the PC version that I was playing.
Yeah.
And I was playing it. I don't know if I think it was either Vive Pro or Index. I can't remember. But it's like legit scaring me again. I forget about all the jump scares. And that game is just like instant jump scares.
It is. It's scary, isn't it? It's a really scary game. So like you. Well, it was my first foray into Doom 3. I didn't play it originally when it released, so
I did. I loved it.
But the first time I'm experiencing it is with the VR model, and it surprised me how scary it is. And in one particular bit of the game, you have to follow one of the survivors,
Yes.
and he's got like a lamp in his hand, and all the lights go out in the rooms that you're in, and you have to try and keep him alive.
Okay,
Oh my
that's
god!
pretty fucking
I
scary.
jumped out of my skin.
That's scary. I
playing
can't
that.
see shit.
That part of the level
Oh my
was
God,
so
it's
scary. And
horrible.
I think on the last podcast we talked about Alien Isolation, and I said that how I basically noped out of that, and the jump scares were, quite frequent in that game. Well, in Doom 3, I would say it almost ramps up another level.
It's amazing. It was 2004 when that game was released, how well it holds up.
Yeah.
It just looks so beautiful in that headset and the lighting. I mean, I believe Doom 3 was the very first game that incorporated like real-time lighting and shadows and dynamic lighting and that type of thing. And it really shows. I remember seeing the commercials for that game. That's the reason I got my kick-ass Gateway gaming PC.
Hey, Gateway! Yeah, nice. Blast from the past.
And I remember that was the first time I'd actually played a PC game since, gosh, probably the Super Nintendo.
Oh wow! Okay.
I'd always been a console gamer.
Yeah.
And so playing with the mouse and keyboard, I was really worried about that. But I just remembered, and I quit probably about 4 hours into the game, just because it was starting to get really hard for me, and I just
hard, scary.
I haven't beat it yet, so I'm planning on doing it now in the Quest 2. I've never beat the game.
Yeah, so I'm still playing through it at the moment as well. I'm about 2, maybe 3 hours into it now, something like that, and it doesn't feel like the story's coming to a conclusion just yet. So I think there's still a couple of hours to go.
There's a long ways to go. Yeah,
it does. Does it? Okay.
Yeah, because I've, I can't remember what level I'm on right now, but it's not as far as I've gotten in the past. But I just tried to play a little bit of it the other day. I played like an hour of it, waiting to do something. I think it was waiting to play Pop 1 with my brother and friend.
Yeah.
And, I had to stop. I was like, oh, this is too much for me today. It's freaking me out too bad. And so,
yeah, imagine being freaked out like that live on stream for everyone to be laugh at you. That's what happens with me. I do these stupid games on stream. Why do I do it? Why?
Oh yeah.
Oh dear. But so if we talk about the mod side of it, it's quite incredible how native the VR feels through this mod. Like, Simon and his team are just so talented getting something like this into VR. And it really, really took me by surprise when I loaded into it, like how native it felt. The motion control support is incredible. All the button mappings are perfect. I didn't really struggle with anything, like getting to grips with controllers at all. Head tracking is perfect in its true geometric 3D. So you feel completely immersed in the world. And it runs flawlessly as well. And in the interview, they did make improvements for it for the Quest 2 as well. So
and I got on my video on my channel for it. One of the developers commented from Dr. Beef on it and saying, I guess make sure that you download the new version of it because they made some critical changes to it, he said, which will affect the end of the game and how otherwise you might have some problems.
Okay.
I don't know if you had any problems, but that one area where you have to use that big claw thing to drop those tanks in that.
Oh yeah.
I had really tough time getting my hand to come up to use it.
Okay.
I edited it. You can't tell from the video because I edited it all out, but I had to turn my body a very specific way until the finger would come up.
Yeah, I remember it was a little bit sensitive with those
really
controls to get it.
there.
Yeah, it was, but probably massively improved from when you play it, I'd say.
Maybe, I don't know, because I just played it like a couple weeks ago. But one thing that I did notice as far as you'll experience a little bit of frame drop and lag if you're in like the smoke. Like some of the special effects cause it to get a bit choppy sometimes. But nothing terrible, mind you. It's just something that one of the things that does happen.
It's like, let's not criticize it too heavily. Like Doom 3 and VR. It's like
it's
amazing.
So
it's a miracle in itself, isn't it?
And, from his interview, from the way I understand it, it is not impossible to get Half-Life 2 into VR. With the Quest 2.
So
you just need to all sign a petition, get Gabe to say open source that source 1. Why do you need that closed source now?
I would love to play standalone version of Half-Life 2 on the Quest. I really would.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Quest 3. That's definitely coming. That's coming. By the time that comes out, maybe there'll be a way to get it on there. So for those who don't know, Greg actually specifically asked me to pose a question to Simon in advance, whether or not Half-Life 2 could actually be ported over to the Quest. And as you just seen, he responded to that question, and that's a sharp no at the moment. But who knows? He
didn't say it was impossible.
Yeah, this is true. If it's
open source, I think they could do it. I think the Quest 2 could run it.
Yeah, well, it's obvious I don't know much about modding. A lot of what was said went over my head. I tried to understand, but it's just fascinating to kind of, just sort of see what the process is like, what's involved in it from a real layman's point of view, because I've never really understood all that stuff. But okay, so let's move on to Castle Wolfenstein. So I played a lot of it. Again, haven't finished it yet. I need to go back and finish all of these mods because they're so much fun. And Castle Wolfenstein took me by surprise, so I didn't play this back in the day either. And it's an all-time classic, apparently. It's got like a massive fan base behind it. Mm-hmm. And so when I was streaming, I had quite a few viewers that were really interested to kind of see how it ran on the headset in VR. And, it hasn't disappointed again, much like Doom 3. Runs flawlessly.
It runs great, yeah.
It really does. And even like using a sniper in Castle Wolfenstein felt great, And I was hitting some good shots in there. I was very proud of my shots in Castle Wolfenstein. And it's got quite a cool storyline as well. Because as we know, Hitler and Nazis, they kind of were into the occult. And Hitler had an interest in the occult anyway. I guess anything that he thought could give him a slight advantage in the war, so he researched it a little bit. We've all seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. We know they're after the Ark of the Covenant and stuff. It is real, but no, it is a fact. He did have an interest in all that kind of stuff. So it has like an occult part to the storyline, which is quite interesting because it gives you a variety of different enemies to battle. You're not just shooting Nazis the whole time, which they're pretty awful people, so it's quite nice to shoot them anyway. But shooting monsters as well is good. And a variety of weapons, which feel good in VR as well. And overall, again, it feels like it's native. Damn it. So, Doom, Castle Wolfenstein, and I'm trying to think what other mod I played.
Half-Life.
Lambda 1, yes. Yeah. So Lambda 1, I think, is the only one that I struggled a little bit with. I did play it when it first came out, though, and it's had a lot of adjustments to the mod.
Yeah, that's why I want to retry it. I actually didn't get very far with that one because for some reason that one, out of all, I don't get sick in VR anymore, but playing that made me feel motion sick.
Yeah, I think it can be quite intense in places, can't it?
Well, I think also that I was playing it in the Quest 1, and I think the frame rate maybe wasn't as fast as I like things. Yeah. So that may have made me feel a little ill, but that one was making me feel queasy.
I think we should both go back to Lambda 1 and give it a go. Maybe we'll do a little review in the future of what we think of the current version of it. I couldn't complete the game because I got to this section where you kind of had to crouch down because you're going through a vent, and then there's something that's kind of spinning above your head, and there was something wrong with the collision, I think, because every time I went anywhere near it, I just could not get past it. And from playing the game on Pancake on flat screen, I know that you can get past that bit just by crouching, but the mod just wasn't letting me get past it. I just couldn't.
I think I might have hit that too.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, so I constantly died on that section, so I decided to kind of stop the playthrough there. But I'd like to go back to Lambda 1 and give it another go because, Half-Life VR. Mm-hmm. The original Half-Life, like epic game.
I want them to do it with Black Mesa. I don't know if you've played that. It's fantastic. The little bit of play of it, I've only played a few hours of it, but I think Vorpex. It has true geometric 3D direct VR.
Does it?
I mean, you're still playing with gamepad, but it feels native VR.
Oh, nice!
It looks really, really good and plays really, really well.
I think it'll be too performance heavy. I don't think you'll be able to run that on the
I don't
Quest.
know. Yeah, I might not be able to. Maybe the Quest 3.
Quest 3 on the Quest 3 maybe. Yeah, definitely. But that would be cool. I know that you can play Opposing Force, I think it is. So you can play Opposing Force on the Quest 2 as well. That's part of the Lambda mod, which is great. I don't know if that opens the door.
Multiplayer?
No. So Opposing Force is when... So the original Half-Life, you see everything through Gordon Freeman's eyes. And then Opposing Force is when you see it through the... not the Combine. Is it the Combine? I don't think it is a Combine, is it? Just the soldiers. Like the military soldiers. You kind of play it from their perspective when they storm Black Mesa. And it's actually really good. I enjoyed Opposing Force. I really did. And I wonder if that's opened a door for the other ones, because there was also Blue Shift as well, was another Half-Life entry from the original.
Yeah.
That would be great if that came. Fingers crossed.
My first exposure to Half-Life, the universe, really was Alex. So.
And what a great way to jump into that universe as well.
And then I played all of Half-Life 2 in VR with Gary's mod, and oh my god, that's why I want it on the Quest, because I'm like, that game is so good. I would love to see a better mod for it. I mean, Gary's mod worked really well for the core of the base Half-Life 2 game.
Yeah.
It worked pretty good for episode 1. Little buggy in a couple areas, some problems with spawning if you died, stuff like that. So you'd have to jump back in different chapters. And then it didn't, I hardly made it anywhere in episode 2. It just wasn't working well.
Yeah. So, you got stuck on the airboat section, didn't you? Was it airboat?
I couldn't play the airboat. I couldn't play the Doom buggy. That's another thing. If you had somebody like Dr. Beef's team in there that could give you hand controls of steering the airboat, I think that would make a big difference, because the way I had to do it in Gary's mod is like you accelerated with a trigger and you steered with like the trackpad, and it just was really hard to control, so you just got sick instantly, because you're
was it sharp turns, was it?
Well, that and just
quite sensitive.
It's just and no control of movement, and like it didn't stabilize that, like with the same thing with the Doom buggy as far as controls, and it doesn't stabilize the point of view, so you can't even see when you're bouncing, because the screen is bouncing so hard that it's like, I don't even know what's happening here.
Okay, so maybe it definitely needs some sort of adjustment to a mod to kind of help that out, maybe. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and the other Dr. Beef game that I've played was I think it was the original Doom? Z Doom, I think is.
Might have been. I haven't tried those.
Yeah, so and that's great as well. Like, no problem at all. So all in all, we've seen a number of these brought by Dr. Beef's team, and I'm just excited to see what they decide to mod in the future after he's had a bit of a break, which he sort of mentioned in his interview.
His mod for, because isn't he? No, it's Nebri is modding. What is it? That big shooter.
Halo.
I can't think of it. Halo. There you go.
Yeah. So Nebri's the one that did the Mother VR.
Mother VR,
which was the Alien Isolation mod that we talked about last episode. Yeah. So it'd be great to see what he's up to as well. It's just the fact that we have these modders. People that are genuinely interested. God bless them, modders. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Like, especially at the times at the beginning of VR, when the releases were a little bit on the dry front, to kind of have the ability to play a few of these kind of modded games, modded classics, definitely helped, didn't it? Definitely helped kind of keep the interest going, I would say.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit in our news last episode about how I was really excited for Hitman 3.
Oh yes, you were. Yeah.
And I was a little bit concerned, because one of the things that really concerned me about it is when I watched the trailer, the one with the developers that were working on it.
Yeah.
They were talking like none of us had ever seen VR before. They're like, "Oh, you're going to put this on and you're going to be transported into a game like you've never experienced before." It's like they've never seen it. Like, this is the first time they've ever heard of VR.
Oh, no, not a good start.
So I was like, this makes me a little bit nervous. And then you saw trailers of like you could see it. Well, it looks like it's motion control, but they say it's not motion control.
Mm-hmm.
So, or it is kind of motion control. So this is what they've done: is they've merged the DS4. That's how you use your motion control. So like if you raise it, he brings his hands up, and then you punch by like doing this type of thing. And, or like if you choke him, you just bring your hands up. And then the animation goes like this, which this actually feels really good. It's one of the most intuitive things of all the controls.
I was going to say, that's impressing me as you're talking about it.
Yeah, that works really well. And then you like pull your right trigger and it grabs and it pulls the head right by, So I'm always like, I was whispering to him, it's okay. I was like joking.
Just let it happen. Let it happen.
Go to sleep. So, or, the Garrett wire kind of works if you do it at the right time. I was trying to do it too soon with like in the training. And so it wasn't working. It was just going right through them. And then I'd end up dying and it was really frustrating. But yeah. So anyway, there's another point to bring up. The tutorial, I did 3 hours in the tutorial.
3 hours?
They put you in this training level where you're on this boat and you've got to kill this one guy. And so after you finally get him killed the first time, then they're like, now we'd like you to do it again. And they give you all these different scenarios and ways that you can kill him. And they're like, we recommend that you do all of this. And I was like, holy shit, what? So I did a couple of them. I'm like, I really kind of want to just play the game.
So it doesn't let you move forward until you...
Well, after you do at least one of them, I think you can move forward after that. Maybe you can after the first time you go through it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that you're going to miss if you don't go through all of that. Because, I mean, apparently there's lots of... We'll talk about this a little bit. But anyway, then after I get that, that was the final test. And then you have to go through another training level.
Oh, wow.
It took me 3 hours to get through just the training part of the game. And then I got into the full game. Now, the motion controls thing we'll talk a little bit more about, but like graphically, it looks okay. It's a PSVR game on an old system, so it's not going to be it looks better than Iron Man VR did.
Okay.
Iron Man had really bad problems with really being super blurry in the distance and anti-aliasing and everything, and a lot of jagged edges around stuff, and that I didn't see a problem. But like you walk into an area where there's a crowd. And you turn your head and you can see on your peripheral vision there's nothing there, and then you turn and then a whole crowd draws in right in front of you.
No.
And it does that everywhere. It does it. So as soon as you turn your head, they all disappear, and then you turn it back and they all draw back in.
No, that's an immersion killer in a big
it's terrible.
way.
Yeah. And then you walk up to people and like their hair will pop onto their heads. They'll be bald. They have hair all
Oh my God.
And oh my God, the cut and paste of characters is insane. You'll see 2 people, the exact same people standing right next to each other. Either that or this hotel. And I know Dubai has a lot of money. Yeah. And you're in that great big tower thing, the Spire or whatever,
Yeah.
And apparently Dubai is cloning their staff because it's the same damn girl behind every counter.
Wow. So, I've never been to Dubai. Maybe that's happening.
Yeah, maybe that's a thing. I mean, it's typical Hitman fashion. You walk around, you look and you find the people that you're supposed to kill, and then you figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You have to change into staff. They give you directives of how to do things and all of that. And that's fine. That's cool and all. And I did have a good time doing it. I'm not going to say I didn't, but but then it got to a point where mixing that motion control with the dual shock, I think it just becomes confusing at points. There's a point where I had to this guy wanted me to show him my knife skills.
Is that impressive?
Okay.
And I had to throw a knife.
I don't
and
get it.
I didn't go through anything like that in the tutorial. I had no idea how to do it. So first of all, when you're walking around, you always have like this one hand that's like out in front of you like this. It kind of reminds me of like the Half-Life Alyx mod the guy tried to make where you were playing it 2D, how the hands just sat out in front and then they did this. And that's what your hands do. So they're just like shooting out in front of you. And I had to grab this knife. So my hand kind of shoots out and this knife shoots up in my hand. And he's like, "Now show me how to throw a knife." And I'm like, I don't know how to throw a knife. I'm trying to figure out first how to get the knife ready, and then I'm like, okay, so my VR brain is just saying, well, you've got the knife, it's ready, just throw it. So I'm sitting here, nothing's happening, it just flips down, I'm dropping it, and then my hand's doing this thing again, trying to pick it up. I did that for about 2 minutes, and finally it's like, fuck it. I just picked the knife up and I just walked up to the guy and stabbed him.
So did you find out how to do it in the end, like what it was?
Somebody commented on because I posted a video of that because it's kind of funny. Somebody commented to it on about it on Twitter. It's like, well, it looks like you don't even know how to play the game. And I'm like, what was your first clue? Apparently, I think you used the left trigger to throw the knife.
Okay.
And so, but I have the knife in my right hand, and I'm still in the motion control. Yeah. So
this is it. And the problem is, therefore, the controls are not intuitive for VR.
No,
basically.
They're not. So they're constantly pulling me out of immersion of the game because I'm sitting there fighting with this damn controller, trying to figure out which button
is it square, circle, which trigger, bumper.
So there's another thing. Like I have a screwdriver in my hand. They want me to poke a hole in this water barrel, because then you can redo the wiring and then you can electrocute people.
Yeah.
Why can't I just stab the thing? I have to push a button to do that. I have to push triangle to stab the thing. But if I have it in my hand, I should just be able to go and stab it. And
Yeah, you're right. And with the motion control, you should be able to just do that action. And so what you're saying is that it could have worked with the controller being tracked, but they just didn't implement it right. Yeah, there's some obvious mistakes that they've made with the implementation. Is that what you would say?
My comments are basically like, this is what happens when you have people that don't know how to make a VR game make VR games.
Yeah, and I think and part of me does feel like developers deserve a little bit of a break because it's a first foray into VR for a lot of these studios. But at the same time, I kind of feel like the writing's on the wall. Like, just do Google search, like, VR design, game design basics.
Bring people on your team that know what they're doing.
And, there's almost like a set of unwritten rules that exist now for game design for VR that if you break those basic rules now, people just don't have any tolerance for it anymore. They probably did in 2016, but they don't have that now. And it's a shame that in 2021 now, that the people are still making these kind of mistakes with the design of the game.
Yeah, honestly, I wish they would have just left out the motion control thing because it feels like kind of a tacked on gimmick.
Okay.
It just doesn't. It's not polished. It's clunky, awkward, janky.
Do you think that the VR adds to the game?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
That part, the sound design. That like I said, the graphics have issues with pop in and stuff like that. I don't know how they could have. If it might just be the limitations of. I'm sure it is the limitations of the PS4.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I if they would have just left that off, because I've played like Resident Evil 7 or Hellblade, or Alien Isolation, all these games that I've played in VR with just the gamepad, and I was perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
Adding all of this stuff to it that really isn't all that necessary just makes it confusing, at least for me. And maybe it's just because I've got old man brain. I don't know. I mean, I've seen some guys playing the game that just absolutely love it, and they're flying through, and they make it look so easy. But I feel like if I've spent 3 hours in a tutorial and I'm still struggling with basic things, that's a game design issue.
Yeah, I would say it's a game design issue as well. Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because a lot of these studios are kind of going for the cash grab now for VR because they know it's a thing now and there's money to be made. So they're giving it a go to see whether or not it's something that can benefit the studio. But as I say, there's kind of a few basic rules now with VR game design, and if you break those, then it's just not. I doubt it's been a success, to be honest, because I think there's been a lot of negativity I've heard about it overall.
Yeah, I haven't really. The only thing I've seen is a couple of people that really like the game, and I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? That's great. I'm glad you like it. I really hope people do.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, after 6 hours or so in the game, I have really no desire to go back into it.
Well, they're probably fans of the base game, like not
Yeah.
necessarily the VR implementation. They probably played it to death, just being Hitman fans.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So that's probably overriding all the faults that exist in the VR implementation.
And I do wonder if some of the people that are really enjoying the VR part, if a lot of them are only exposed to
PSVR.
PSVR.
Yeah.
You know, haven't
Yeah.
played even with the Quest. You know, they're just not used to that. What real motion control is.
That's it. I think if you're a PSVR user and then you try the Quest 2, you'll be like, oh, like you know, might have your mind blown a little bit, and then you'll go back to the PSVR and you'll be like, yeah, even this feels like last gen now. You know, it's old hardware now. So okay, well that's Hitman 3.
That's it.
A bit of a shame, really, but okay. If you like the series and you own a PSVR, do it. If you're not too familiar with the series,
I would say wait for a sale, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess if you really like the series, go ahead. But I'm kicking myself for spending $63 on that game.
Okay, and that is an expensive price tag as well. So I'd expect it to be slightly better than that for 60 quid.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. That's episode 6 of the TripVR podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with some more VR insight and news. I've been VR Bug, and this has been
Dr. Greg. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe and click the bell thingy and comment and tell all of your friends and family, everybody.
Exactly. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.